Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. Welcome to another episode of the Community Live Stream. My name is Chuck Tomasi from ServiceNow. I am a TPMM specializing in the platform, custom applications, and integrations, and all things around the platform. I enjoy doing that. That's what I do. And I also enjoy being here with you. This is Friday, June 1st. Wow, where did May go? We had knowledge, then had some time off, and then June was gone. So this is Friday, June 1st. Welcome. This is the show where I take you not only into the ServiceNow community, but explain what's going on in my head as I get to some of these questions and answers. And if you are watching live on YouTube, I greatly appreciate that. Let me make that a little smaller and go to, there you are. If you're watching this somewhere else and you want to find us on YouTube, that's the URL to do it right there. You can subscribe to that and get notified when the new episodes are aired live or posted or whatever you do. If you find something in this video that's helpful, click that little like button and the thumbs up. You know what to do. It's the usual YouTube stuff, and greatly appreciate that. Others will find that helpful as well. We also simulcast this live on Twitch. Twitch keeps it around for a couple of weeks. And I see that some people watch it there as well. Thank you very much over at twitch.tv/NOWCommunity. If you're watching live, hey, give me a shout out in the chat room. Let me know where you're from, how things are going, what's on your agenda today. And if you have a question around the community, ServiceNow in particular, anything related to the product, the capabilities of the platform, your personal developer instance, anything like that, be sure to post that in the community at community.servicenow.com. Make sure you get that into the right forum. There are various sections, whether it's ITOM related or ITBM related or whatever your topic is. Be sure to pick the right forum. Post it only once, please, so you don't confuse the people that are trying to answer and the people that are coming along later. And if you do have a question, again, post it there rather than in the comments of this live broadcast, because otherwise people aren't going to be able to find it. So the community is built on ServiceNow, which is a system of record, and people will be able to search and find and track and like and mark helpful, all that good stuff. Subscribe to it. That's what a system of record does. If they're watching this in YouTube later, it's difficult to say, oh, remember when Chuck did that a couple of months ago? He talked about that. Very difficult to do. Now, if I had some assistance, maybe we could index these things and say at 22:45, Chuck was talking about this particular topic, and then we can make a post about that. And that would be searchable, but that's beyond the capabilities and bandwidth of what I've got today. Right now, I just do this out of the goodness of my heart every weekday that I'm available, not on PTA, don't have PTO, have any conflicts that interfere with that, and do what I can to help you out, and I definitely enjoy it. I will also be going to my personal developer instance over at developer.servicenow.com, which looks something like this. There's the developer site. Let me bring up the homepage. And you can go and get a free personal developer instance. This is a free full-fledged instance of ServiceNow that includes the latest software, Kingston, or Jakarta, or Istanbul. If you wish to use one of those older releases, you can do that. You can activate plugins. You can do proof of concept. You can wipe the thing clean if you mess it all up. That's what it's all about. It's a very easy way to do that, and economical way, if I might say so myself. You can also find information about meetups. There is now the share capability, the sort of the open market store, if you will. You don't have to pay for any of these applications. Some are code snippets, some are service portal widgets, some are full-fledged applications. They come with no guarantee or anything. Some might be scoped, some might not. So you're welcome to try those out. And the personal developer instance is a wonderful place to test those before you put them into dev, test, prod, that kind of thing, to find out if they meet your needs, do they need any modifications, and go from there. So wonderful marriage of these two now is Share and the developer community. You can also find all of our scripting APIs over at developer.servicenow.com. Highly encourage you to take a look at that, along with, almost forgot, learning paths and events. There's developer meetups. check the developer meetups to see if there's one in your area if you're interested in talking with ServiceNow developers that do what you do. What did I miss? Community developer, I think that's it. I did community developer, Twitch, YouTube. All right, so much for the flags on the bottom. That means it's time to get started in the community, again, over at community.servicenow.com. I am logged in. Let's start with, I do have some things from yesterday that I did not get to that I will cover in just a little bit, but I'd like to start with what's new, what's unanswered, what can we help with? And again, my specialty is around custom applications and integrations, the platform in general, scripting. So let's see what we can help with. There's also a lot of other very, very smart people out here on the community that can help with that. So parallel dashboard rendering. Let's see what that's about. Sounds like it's more about performance analytics and reporting, but let's see. Looking for ways to improve performance on the platform. I found these properties, glide.ui homepage parallel and parallelism. According to the documentation, these properties are used to set the parameters for rendering home pages. How do I calculate the best value for these properties? Let's take a look at the documentation. Maybe it's just some help with interpretation. Changing the parameter for parallel homepage rendering. Before you begin, role required. About this task, let me make that a little larger for you. In testing, the average performance benefit is between 20 and 50% depending on page in question. Administrators can set parallel homepage rendering properties for optimal performance on an instance. All right, got something in my eye. To change the parameters for parallel homepage rendering. Procedure. Enables or disables parallel rendering. The default is true. Good. Sets the number of threads to use when rendering a homepage. Default is 2. Okay, so what is the optimum? You're going to have to try it out. So how do I calculate the best values? The best values are leaving the rendering as true. I think that's what it was. We'll put that in there. glide.ui.homepage.parallel. I'll show you what we're talking about in just a sec. The number of threads was the other one. Copy and paste. Programmer's best friend, right? That's what Dave Slusher calls it. You will have to try a few values and see what works best for you. The default is 2, which is a good start. I wouldn't think 1 would be any better. But a number too high. And you can find out number of threads. Where was it? Change the parameter. Where's my developer instance? There it is. It's in the wrong order. I have had a set order for these tabs for a long, long time. And if I go to stats.do, it should tell me how many threads I have available. Red. Yes, no? It doesn't say how many threads. Interesting. So I've got semaphores, I've got connection pools, background scheduler, workers, pool size, workers. I don't remember what the relationship is between threads and some of those other parameters at the moment. So, and I don't even know what the maximum value is. It didn't say that, did it? Default is 2. There is a max number of threads, but I don't recall what it is at the moment. I thought it was 25 for the entire system, but could be wrong on that. Obviously, if you use all 25 to render a home page for one user, the others will suffer. Do some testing and report back what you found. Report back your findings. There we go. Good morning if you're just joining us. Thank you. It is Friday, June 1st. I'm going through the community and hopefully explaining what I find and what I get so that you can apply those to your daily job and use similar problem solving techniques. Okay, what we were talking about there on the home page is, I think I've got dashboards turned on right now, so let me change that. That's easy enough to do through the little cog icon up here in the corner. Yeah, that's a dashboard. And there is, on the general setting, I click the cog icon up in the upper right. See that? For my settings, these are my general settings. Under general, I've got home. Do I want to land on a home page or do I want to land on a dashboard? The legacy way is home pages. They've been around forever. Dashboards came along 2014, I think 2015, around the time performance analytics came out. I'd give you a different way to present that information. And in doing so, you can, what we found, I think it was several years ago, those properties were added. I can check when the date created was on those properties. But if I use a home page and now reset or click the logo in the upper left, it brings up a home page. And each one of these uses a gauge or a report of some type and has to go and do the database query, then render the information. Well, if it does those one at a time, you're going to see chart drawing, chart drawing, chart drawing, chart drawing. And we've made it smart enough that it doesn't draw things that aren't on the screen until you present them. So I forget what the limit is. It does like the first 5 and then says, well, if it's below there, I'm not going to draw it because no one's looking at it. It's below the fold. Someone has to scroll to see that. And you can tune that to say, how many of these should I be drawing at the same time? Every time it goes out and does the query and renders one of these, it's using up a Java thread. And if you're only using one thread, these properties control, do you want to run parallel rendering and how many parallels do you do in turn? That's the logic behind those two properties. If you set that too high and you say, I want to do 25 things at once, well, you're allocating a lot of system resources to rendering somebody's home page. Generally, 2 or 3 should suffice. If you do 1, then you're not really doing anything in parallel, right? One in parallel is a series. So that's what he was asking about. A little explanation there. That's what I'm doing today. Query on workflow activity state. All right, this is always interesting. I always wonder why people want to know things that are there. Hi guys, one of the workflow activity, I see it as restarted. What exactly is that? I don't see that state in the doc. Well, that's interesting. I haven't seen that before. An if statement restarted. I think that's the entire image. There's no scrolling going on here. Interesting question. Let's look in the product documentation under restarted workflow activity. See what we find. Workflow activities, turnstile, switch. Let's see if we can find something about states, conditional workflow activities. No, let's do, is there any sign of information in the log? Have you checked the system log and workflow context log for any sign of additional information? Good question. I haven't seen that before. Let's see what they come up with. When in doubt, check the logs. It's a very easy thing to overlook. I do it all the time. It's not until something goes wrong that I check the log. Good practice is to check the log all the time. You could have null pointer exceptions going on. It won't indicate any problem to the system, but it could give you erratic and unknown results. Ready to go with the cranberry raspberry herbal tea this morning. ESS record different depending on list view accessed form. Not sure what that's saying, but let's take a look. Created a scoped application with 2 tables extended from the task table. Table 2 has many to one relationship with table 1. Each table 1 record can have many table 2 records. That's technically a one to many, but that's all right. Both a default view and ESS view have been created for Table 1 form, along with all appropriate ACLs on Table 1 and Table 2. ESS do not have permissions to see records within Table 2, only Table 1. Okay, I'm mentally painting a picture here. The form default view for Table 1 has Table 2 related list at the bottom. The module to show my open Table 1 records for ESS users to see their open tickets. On the ESS homepage, I've added a list view report based off the task table, allowing, my brain is starting to run out of capacity on this one. Added a list view report based off the task table, allowing the ESS user to be able to see a list of all incidents, requested items, and Table 1 tickets that are open. If the ESS user opens the My Open Table 1 records and selects a ticket from that list, they are presented on the form with the expected ESS view and the related list does not appear. Good. If ESS user opens Table 1 from the task table list on the ESS homepage, they see the form along with Table 2 related list at the bottom, and of course, number of rows removed. Okay, I get it. I understand what they're going. As a workaround, I've been able to leverage UI policy to hide the related list from the ESS users, but it still displays for a brief second before the policy applies. I'm thoroughly perplexed as to why accessing the same record via two different... What you want is a view rule. Because the reason it is behaving two different ways is because you are accessing it in two different ways. Via the task table or via Table 1 list module. I should probably make this real English. Two different ways. If you want it to behave in a locked method, you might want to consider using a view rule to force people with a certain role to view with or without a certain role, to view the record with a specific view based on that rule. There is a default incident view that does this. I don't remember if it does it well though. I think it might use legacy information. View rules are under System UI View Rules. You can find view rules under System UI View Rules. And let me get a document page here for view rules, and I'll explain what I'm talking about in just a second. If you haven't used view rules before, they are quite handy from keeping people doing the wrong thing, seeing information in the wrong way. Where is it? Consider using a view rule. Link, paste, new window, done. Okay. Now, let's also check the one for incident ESS. You define what table this works on, and then you decide what rules to work on. So for example, the change request out of the box, it says if it's an emergency change based on the category or topic or type, then I'm going to display the form in this way using this view. Let me see. I thought there was a table in here. Matches condition, field mapping. I thought there was a table on here. Personalized list columns. There is a table. It's just off the screen. Domain table. There we go. Let's see. Search for table. That includes incident. Nothing. Search for table that includes change. Change, change, change. What? We don't have those as out of box anymore? Interesting. Okay. There was a way to do this, and let me see if I can find it. Was it? Was it a before query business rule? Let's look in the business rules. Because incident did it a little differently, if I remember right. Incident. I thought you could force the view. Incident events, incident functions, incident query, insert incident. Where was it? It wasn't incident query. Not incident auto close. And click the advanced. I thought it was in here. Come on. Slow browser, take a drink. There it is. Incident get view name. Okay. If they have the ITIL role, you let them use whatever view they've got. If their view starts with ESS, then you use that. There was a way to, I thought it was forcing it. Anyway, you might also want to take a look at the incident functions. I don't even know if that's documented anymore. Let's see if it's table name under table name get view name. I'm going to look for that in the documentation, see if that's still documented. This is a very obscure way to do it before they had view rules. Render properties global, render properties scoped, get view name. And what was it? It was get list get view name. It's not doing a very good job at searching for me. I don't think I need two of these up. List get view name. Yeah, I didn't think so. There is also an incident, a business rule called incident functions that helps drive the views for the users. If I recall, it's a legacy way of doing this. The key to making it work is to name the functions with the table name. E.g., in table 1, get view name. Is that what it was? Get view name, get view rule, get view name, and underscore list. Table 1, underscore list, get view name. Capital G, capital G, capital G on that. Get view name. All right, a little bit of research, a little bit of legacy knowledge going into that one. Here, ring the bell. We're all happy today. Thank you for joining me. Pardon the mumbling sometimes. I have to think and type at the same time, and the brain doesn't like to do both all at once. Yeah, if you're just joining, my name is Chuck Tomasi, going through the community on ServiceNow, finding what I can help with and explaining what I'm doing while I do this. So it is 24 minutes past the hour. Having a good time today? Everybody looking forward to the weekend? I am. There's a lot of catching up to do. This will be the first weekend I've been home for a while. Leading practices for Midservers and data sources. Let's see what that's about. A Midserver, if you're not aware, is an agent. I think I described this yesterday. Agent that goes on a Windows or Linux machine in your enterprise. You can have multiples of these. You can set them up as load balancing. You can distribute them throughout your network. If you've got a global network, you want to put the Midservers as close to the work that they're doing. For example, if I had a data center in Australia, I wouldn't want to put the Midserver in Chicago, Illinois, in the US, because it would have to go across the WAN to do all of this work. I would be better served by putting a mid-server close to that data center in Australia or in that data center in Australia so that I could do that work and then ship the results back to the instance wherever that may be. In my current environment, we have one mid-server per instance, but we have data sources that get moved up through update sets. The sticking point is that the update set travels from dev to test to prod, and I have to modify the data source's mid-server entry, usually making this change under the current instance's global default update set. What is the best way not to have to manually make a change to the data source as it travels up the instances via update sets? I'm not against redoing my mid-servers or redesigning something if it gets me closer to code nirvana. Should all three instances use the same mid-server? How do you ensure the SIS ID is the same? That is an excellent question. And I know we have this for credentials. They're called credential aliases, but I don't think we have the same thing for mid-servers. And it is best practice to do what he's talking about. So you have a dev instance talking to a dev mid-server. That way you're not messing with production data. Your dev mid-server may have, say, just a limited scope of what it discovers, for example, if you're running discovery and using the mid-server to get those results back. Then when you move it to test, you may want to test it on a little wider scope of discovered items. And then finally in production, you want all the data items or all of your IP ranges or a vast selection of IP ranges for the discovery. And as he makes those update set changes to, say, the discovery schedule or an integration that needs to go through the mid-server, you want that to go to the proper mid-server so that it's getting the proper data. I don't have a direct solution for that, but what I can recommend is a fix script. It's not completely transparent, but it can update the records for you as needed. Even if manually run and manually triggered, forget the N, manually triggered, it avoids human error. Let me get a link to fix scripts. Fix scripts are kind of like scheduled jobs, but you don't run them on a scheduled basis. You could use a scheduled job for the same thing as well. Where they got the name fix script, I don't know. Sounds like something needs fixing after the installation. Let me put that link in, open it up in a new window, and go from there. It's a suggestion, don't know if it's a solution, we'll find out. Okay. How to trigger assignment rule from workflow. Ooh, getting warm in here. Hello, developers. Is there a way to trigger an assignment rule from a workflow when an item is approved? I have assignment rule which has multiple conditions. I need to trigger it after the approval. Any help would be appreciated. When are assignment rules or data lookups triggered? I thought you determined that in the assignment rule. Assignment lookup rules example, assignment rules module, condition editor example, data lookup rules. You define, let me look at an exact one that's running right now. Assignment rule is under routing and assignment. I believe it's also under data lookups. But let's see, incident, networking, these are your rules, but this is just what's defined to say if it's an incident and it's in networking, want it to go to networking. If this condition applies, if category is network, then assign to network. That's not terribly complex or difficult to figure out. What is more interesting is if you go to system policy data lookup definitions, that's what defines how that assignment rule behaves. So if I look at the incident assignment lookup rule, it says, do you want to run this on form change, run on insert, or run on update? So it's not something you trigger from the workflow. Oh, there's already a reply in here. Please let the following which may assist your requirement. Somebody asked this. I'm going to reply anyway, directly to this, because I don't know what that other link points to yet. Triggers for the assignment rules are based on the data lookup, which you can find under system policy. Let's make that bold like we did before. System policy. I don't remember what the rules. Data lookup definitions. You'll find that you can set it on form update, insert, or update database updates. That is, when your workflow makes a change to the record and saves it, it will trigger the assignment rule lookup. And a picture would be nice. Ding, ding, do that, paste that, and let's do data lookup definition. See if we can find that. Custom data lookup, create custom data lookups, data lookup rules. That's what I'm looking for. You can use them. Perfect. There it is, right in 3 bullets in the middle of the page. Exactly what I was looking for. Come on, scroll down the page, please. Reference, data lookup rules. I think that's what it was. Yes. Copy, paste. New. Okay, reply. Hit the bell. My favorite sound of the morning. Data lookup rules are very handy. There is an episode of Tech Shorts over on the developer program site, YouTube. There's a playlist called Tech Shorts that I put together. I'm going to be adding to that content shortly. And episode 10 is the one that talks about data lookup rules. And in that example, I do a very quick, if the category or if the category is big, assign it to this person. If the category is small, assign it to that person. And I do a custom lookup rule and create that lookup definition for you. So very easy to create these. Very powerful too, because without a data lookup rule, you would have to be doing client scripts and business rules for every table and every condition on those tables. With the data lookup rule, it becomes data driven, which is the goal of every developer. There's hint, hint. We want the application to be data driven. So when requirements change and say, oh, we don't need it assigned to this person anymore, we need it assigned to that. You don't want to go back to dev and have to redo a script. Just change the table, change them, like changing members of a group. So-and-so changed position, great. Let's just update the data and let it drive that way. Mike Moody, good morning. He says, interesting fact about view rules that I recently discovered is that an advanced view rule is only triggered if your given table view dropdown is set to default, and you can still change views manually. Let me read that again. An advanced view rule is only triggered if your given table view dropdown is set to default. Huh. My understanding of view rules is if the view rule is enacted, then this view doesn't show up. So if it says, hey, you are ESS, you are going to get the ESS view, and that's all you're going to see. It says you're using a view rule. You don't have a choice to change it to anything else. This view menu option just totally disappears. It's gone. Another tidbit, interesting fact about views is the default view name. If you look on the URL, I don't know if you can't read that there. Let me find one for, say, incident. Incident.list. And in the URL, I've got, it's not going to show me there. Let's go into one of the forms. there is an argument on the URL along with the SysID and everything else. Let me put that into my text editor so you can read that a little more intelligently. I know that's a big old mess of URL. But if I search for view, it's not in there. Here's the interesting part. If I change the view to, say, metrics, I get a different form layout. You can clearly see that. And the URL now has, of course, as you would expect, that copy paste didn't work as I expected. Sometimes that happens. I don't know what it is with my fingers. It's still not in there. It's in there. I know it is. SIS Parm record rows. But you can see up here it says metrics view. And if let's do this instead. Copy URL. See if that works any better. Try this again. Down here. There we go. SIS Parm view equals metrics. So what it's doing is there's not a view called default. That's the absence of all other views. If you don't specify a view, it's going to use the default view. So if I go back to view default view, and this confused me when I was working with views initially, way back in my customer days. Under System UI views, you can see a list of all the views. And note that the title is different than the view name. For example, the view name might be ESS, but it's called self-service at the label. That's what's displayed up here when you look at a form. And if you watched real quickly, default is empty. So when you're modifying a view or you want to get a view, default view is nothing. So even if you said sysparm_view equals nothing, you will get the default view, which may or may not be useful if you're using something. Another interesting tidbit, there's only a couple records I've seen in a system like this. If I do the copy URL from this default view record, this will blow your mind. I think I've mentioned this before. Look at the SysID. So the SysID here is a 32-byte hexadecimal character thing. SysID equals default space view. That's neat. I don't know how they did that or why. There is one other record that I found that's similar to that does not have that true 32-bit character, but it's one of those odd bits of trivia. Morning, Carolyn. Thanks for the love on the tech shorts. In case of advancement, it still lets you change. This is why I've opened a high ticket for this unexpected behavior. Okay, yeah, keep me posted on that, Mike. Around the view option. So lots of good information about views and some useless trivia you might not have known. I wish I could remember what the other record was that didn't have a SysID like that. I just encountered it in the last week and now I don't remember. I'm going to have to jot down these little bits of useless trivia. They're fun to share. It is 20 minutes to. I am going to shift gears. Let me see if there's just one more I can have in here. I have a question about two table fields. All right, I'm going to take that one just to see what we can get, and then we'll go to the legacy information. I noticed at the list view of tables that there are two fields, primary and unique. Can someone explain the difference between the two? Using primary is key, but not sure about unique. Unique means that the value of this field must be unique. E.g., a SysID is an excellent example. If you have unique set on sysuser.email, then no two users can share an email address. If you try and save a record that that uses a value that is already in use, you will get a unique violation error. That's what unique does. Reminds me of an old joke. How do you catch a unique rabbit? Unique up on it. How do you catch a tame rabbit? Tame way. All right, that was just 10-year-old humor. You see what happens when you get old? Your brain goes there. All right, quick reminder that we do have Tech Now next week talking about guided tour designer. So if you haven't signed up, go to this link on the screen. Try to make it as big as possible. But it's a bit.ly link, TN53Reg. And you can go there and sign up for Tech Now. We are going to be doing that at 8 a.m. Pacific time, whatever that is in your neighborhood. Hope to see you there. Dave Slusher will be doing that. Craig Stepp will also be doing a bit on record tagging, something I don't use a whole lot, but he does. We are also outlining the Tech Now content for Q4. We got some good stuff in the pipeline. I got to tell you, I'm not used to planning this far ahead. It's something that only came up a few months ago, but it sure is a lot of fun. In fact, I wrote an app. I wrote an app to keep track of Tech Now because we have a number of things in the pipeline at various stages. In this particular one, I'm looking for a subject matter expert. In this other one, we're approving what the email blast will say. And in this one, we're scheduled and registered. So there's currently about 5 or 6 things that are active. The ones that we did at Knowledge still need the video posted and the community links created. So lots of good stuff going on there. Having a lot of fun. All right, there is a question about session timeout that came up. I think it was earlier in the week, but I tagged this one because somebody flagged my attention on it. And they said, hey, we don't, this actually came up a couple of months ago, but it recently came back to life. The session timeout, if you're familiar with it, if you walk away from your computer and your browser is sitting idle for a certain amount of time, it will automatically log you out the next time you refresh. If you're in the middle of a form being filled out, it will not do that. Or it will say, hey, do you want to save this? So we got a little smarter a few years ago when people said, I had to go to the bathroom and now I can't save this. You can adjust this under System Properties, which I happen to have a shortcut, but the table name is sys_properties.list. One of the few tables that has a plural on it. I apologize in advance for that. And the property is glide.ui.session_timeout. Why this is not in the properties pages anywhere, I don't know. But it is also not available in the instance by default. I can tell it's not in here because it's not in a category. If it was on a category, it would more than likely be on a page somewhere. But if you know how to construct property pages. If not, you go back and watch one of the previous Tech Now episodes. I think it was 28, somewhere in there. It was right before Knowledge 17 that we did a property pages Tech Now. But this property is not available out of the box. In fact, I can go to one of my other instances that doesn't need waking up because it's in our data center, not in the personal developer instances. Wait for that to come around. Woo, it's very tiny. Let's make that bigger. Oops, log in. Take a drink while that's logging in. And the session timeout, let's go to SIS Properties. I don't think I have it bookmarked on this particular instance. No, I don't. This is also the one that has the Tech Now app on it. So sys_properties. Remember, best practice for making tables, don't put a plural on there. And I look for that same thing, glide.ui.session timeout. So what, okay, I made this yesterday or 2 days ago. What happens if there's no property? Well, the system has, I can't delete that because I'm in the wrong scope. I was messing around with my Tech Now app yesterday. Let's go ahead and delete that just for fun. If you add, modify, or delete a property, it flushes the cache. Properties are cached because they're used all over the system. Very important note about properties. Going down a little bit of a tangent here. Do not modify properties as part of your application, because I had somebody say, hey, my application is running really slowly. In fact, the whole system was running very slowly. Turns out that they were reading records and saving it in a property, and every time you did that, it would flush the cache, which meant every time somebody did something else, they would have to reload the cache, whether it was loading a form. And this isn't your browser cache. This is the system cache, which is used for speeding up performance. That's what caches do. Well, if you're constantly clearing that out, it means you're defeating any performance benefit you get out of that cache. So use a property to read from, set periodically. If you find you're setting it more than once a week, I would call that pretty frequent for changing a system property or an applications property on how it behaves. You might want to consider an alternate method for storing that value, maybe in a property table for that application. You won't get the caching benefit, but you will be able to change it more frequently without impacting the entire system. So back to my question, what happens if this property is not set? There is an underlying default in the Java code that says 30 minutes. And in fact, one of the best practices when you're doing a gs.getProperty call, which is how you read these properties out of the property table, you say timeout equals gs.getProperty timeout. There's a second parameter you can use, which I will show you. Oh, we are really going all over the place on these properties. Sometimes I don't know where these discussions are going to take me. Under glide system, API, gs.getProperty has two arguments you can use. One is the property name. The other is a default value if that property is not set, so that you don't get back a null, you get back something default. So, where is it? Glide system. I want to scroll down here to get property. Get error, get property. Note the second argument. Alternate object to return if the property is not found. So here is how most people would use it. gs.getProperty servlet.ui, for example, returns your instance name. And if you wanted to say use a timeout, but nobody set that property yet, you could say comma 10, and that would be maybe it's 10 minutes or 10 seconds or 10 milliseconds, whatever your application interprets that as would be your property for that. If the property is not set in the SIS Properties table, you set a default. Very cool, very easy to use, and makes your code more dummy proof. If somebody sets a crazy value and it's not even interpreted properly, it's like, fine, use 10 or 30 or loaded or whatever your second argument is. That's what's happening underneath the platform when it's using this timeout as well. It's not a JavaScript call, obviously. The platform is written in Java. So the information is down there in the Java code that says, look, if glide.ui.session under timeout is not set, then I'm going to use 30 minutes as the time. 1440 in this case happens to be the number of minutes in a day. So I say, look, I've got 24 hours to log out. This will not log me out, which is particularly handy if I'm setting this thing up at, say, 5:15 in the morning and the show doesn't start till 6. My session doesn't get logged out before I start the show. So that's why I boosted this one up a little bit. You can create this, as I mentioned, very easy. You click the new button. Let me look for where that other instance went. You click the new button and you give it a name, give it a value. Description is number of minutes before a user is timed out. The type really only is useful for how it's being represented. If you use a choice, it will show a drop-down list if you put this on a page. The other important thing to remember is if you get a value from gs.getProperty, assume it's always a string. So even though I set this to integer and I set it to a value of 30, watch this. And then I go to script background. Oh, I didn't put script background in here yet. One of my favoritist things to put. Favorite that. I go to scripts background and I say var timeout equals gs.getProperty glide.ui. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you. There we go. .session under timeout. And I will just do a gs.print not print, info. Wow, that was legacy, but I'm in the global scope, so I wouldn't have complained anyway. gs.info to equals to. Now, on the surface, it appears that this is 30. Yay. Watch what happens if I say type of. Oh, I need a plus in there, not an equals. Come on, fingers. Don't fail me now. I replaced the batteries in the mouse right after the show yesterday, so that was helpful. Okay, plus type of equals, and there's this operator in JavaScript called type of that you can put in here. I'm going to copy that just in case I lose it. Just a precautionary message. It is a string. How do you turn a string into a usable value? You use to int. That's the name of my variable. Parse int. Put in your variable and the base. 10, you could do binary, you could do hex, you can do octal. You could change it to a whole bunch of different numeric bases. Now if I say same kind of thing here, copy paste. Wow, this thing's being slow. I need to really find that requisition form. To int is going to be to int. Type of is going to be type of to int, not into. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. Copy, paste just in case. And now it is 30 and it is a number. It is something I can use. I can compare, I can subtract, I can add, all the good things you get out of a number. Okay. Whew. Mike Moody, I discovered a really cool hidden field type recently called name values, which is name values. Apparently it works like a dynamic JSON object and automatically constructs a JSON string in its value. Yes, I covered this on, was it Jakarta or Kingston? I think it was the Kingston features, if my frame of reference is correct. It was created mainly for integrations because sometimes you have to specify like headers. Here's a name, here's a value. Here's a name, here's a value. Content type is application/JSON. And yes, it does store it as a JSON object. If you want, go back to TechNow episode, whatever it was, 43 or 44, I think it's in there, and you will find an explanation about the name value pair field type. It was introduced recently. Kingston, I believe it was. We covered that December 14th with me and Pradeep Sharma, if memory serves. Hey, it's 6 months later. I'm getting old. I remember bad jokes and what release something came out on. That's about it. All right, that was properties. We spent a great deal of time on the timeout property. I also have a discussion about regular expression and escaped characters. I thought this was interesting because it's something that I did for a very specific application I wrote to keep track of something that I do on one of my other podcasts. I use ServiceNow to go out to Wikipedia, get all of the content, and then strip the HTML out. And that's exactly what this particular person was doing. I made a note that you don't need toString if you're using getValue because they're actually getting the value of the field, which comes back as a string. So this is a bit redundant. I was just being pedantic at that point. This is a regular expression. If you haven't used regular expressions, we did a couple series on those in TechNow years ago. Go find that. It was fun. And you'll get the basics of how to do regular expressions. I think Dave Slusher did some. I did some. And replace says, if something matches this pattern, you can see the angle brackets. Those are the HTML tags and what's inside it. Replace it with a space. And they said, but I've got this problem. Every time there's a single quote, he's getting ampersand #39 semicolon. Not cool. And I ran into this as well. I said, that's because the HTML needs to be encoded in certain places for special characters so they don't mess up the HTML. Like ampersand LT parenthesis semicolon is a less than sign. So you put that in your HTML and you will get a less than sign printed out. But it's kind of screwing them up here on the quote. And I said, yeah, I ran into this same kind of thing when I was getting information from Wikipedia, and it would put in things like non-breaking space. It had, I think there was another one like ampersand hash 0060 instead of a quote. Like, what? It didn't make any sense. What I ended up doing is just putting in verbatim replacements for those special characters. I think I ran into 3 of them. It makes the code very easy to read, very easy to maintain. You can replace it with whatever you want. If I want to replace the hash 39 with a single quote, I can do that. If I want to replace it with nothing, I put empty, just empty quotes, 2 quotes close together. Want to replace it with a smiley face, you put in a smiley face. So replace does exactly what you would expect it to do. And that, my friends, is how that one went. Wanted to explain that because sometimes you don't try and over-engineer your regular expression to get everything in the world. If you have to do this in multiple iterations and say, first go and replace this type of text, then go and replace this type of text, then go and replace this type of text, it's not going to kill you on CPU. Replace is a very, very fast operation. The other question that seems to be coming up like once or twice a week, at least in my direction, I don't know about you, but via the community or LinkedIn or whatever, people are saying, hey, I've got my system administration certification. What do I do next? The short answer, it's up to you. There's a lot of product out there, and that's how I answered this for Paulina. I said, Paulina, there's a lot of different things you could do with ServiceNow. It is not just an ITSM platform with where you could do ITSM and add-on applications. There's HR, there's CSM. You people watching this know that all this stuff is now in there when you just go to the main website, servicenow.com. And that's where I steered her. I said, if you go to servicenow.com, the new pretty looking one, under customers, training and certification, we have a complete catalog of what's available. And down here, underneath, I apologize for the scrolling, it gets me a little seasick sometimes. Underneath the customer testimonials, we have explore paths. We have learning paths that you can take to find out what have I got and where do I want to go. This is a bit like saying, hey, I'm interested in science. I mean, it's a pretty broad topic now. You need to pick, are you interested in chemical science, physics, neuroscience? There's just a lot of stuff out there now. I know that was a broad analogy, but the page brings up, it says, what is your role? You say, well, I am a developer. And what products you want? It says, well, the only choice you have is all products. So I pick that, and it says, if you want to be a developer of all products, then here's the path we recommend for you. And it will outline those. First, you should take ServiceNow fundamentals, then scripting, then application development fundamentals. And you can expand those and see more information about what it is, how much it costs, and then become a certified application developer. And that is the path for that. If I went somewhere else and said, I want to be a security implementer, I go to security operations and choose implementer. It says, first you want to be the 5 courses that are here, fundamentals, SAIF. I mean, look at this is a completely different path, but fortunately, you don't have to take ServiceNow fundamentals twice. You can get away with that. If you've already taken scripting, it's not going to count against you. It just isn't going to have a direct impact to security. Might you run into a place where you need to write a custom business rule for your security implementation? Maybe. That's not a bad skill to have. So you can grow these things incrementally over time. Take a course here, take a course there, and focus first on the fundamentals, then focus on where you want to go with this. It's, again, it comes up all the time for me anyway. I don't know about you. But if you want to grow in ServiceNow, pick an area of specialization. Okay, I've got a GP, my doctor that I go to regularly, and he's good at a lot of things, but he's not a specialist for, say, ear, nose, and throat. He'll steer me to an ear, nose, and throat specialist if I've got something going on in my inner ear, or you get the idea there. My eyes need checking. He'll send me to an optometrist. My feet need working on. He'll send me to a podiatrist. The idea is that person has specialized in that. They have the same foundational information. They know about the circulatory system in the case of ServiceNow. Our administrators or the ServiceNow fundamentals know how to create tables and forms and fields and all this fundamental stuff that you get out of that course. So great information to know regardless of what specialization you're going into. But then you can start to specialize and dig down deeper into that. Can you have multiple specialties? Absolutely. No problem with that. It makes you more marketable in the career field. It helps your growth. You're faster at solving problems. You know the platform better. But it does become challenging because now you have to keep up with multiple products and multiple tiers. And over the course of a year, that could be a lot of information intake. So depending on the size of your organization, you may have people that are specialists in that particular role and work on that implementation or that development curriculum, or you work together, even better, and say, hey, I've got this really complex scripting solution that I need built for my HR implementation. I've taken fundamentals, taken fundamentals, and I've taken HR fundamentals, but I'm not deep into scripting. You could hand it over to a developer that has gone through the application creation stuff and is a certified application developer to address those issues. Whew, did I get them all today? I think so. Those were the 3 links that I wanted to hit. Again, reminder, Tech Now episode 453 next week on the 6th, 8 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be talking about Guided Tour Designer. Wonderful way to get your users familiar with the system. Dave Slusher is going to show you some things that he didn't even know a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. So we're all going to learn something and try and keep up with the live Q&A that's coming in. Again, my name is Chuck Tomasi. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you here again on Monday, June 4th, for the next installment of Community Livestream. Until then, go out, help somebody, share something, and you will be helpful, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.